So at the age of 26, Julius Randle has turned into a first-time All-Star for the New York Knicks. And he's been absolutely tremendous as the Knicks are now pushing for a playoff spot in a season that many thought they would again be stuck near the bottom of the East. And again, Julius Randle has been the main reason for that. And I think it's absolutely fascinating to witness Julius Randle's growth. But how much of it is actually growth and how much of it is maturation? I think the difference between growth and maturation in this sense is like growth is, players that improve upon their skills that they didn't have before, or players that acquire skills that they didn't have before or improve upon what they already had, against maturation, which is, I think, taking advantage of your resources and finally putting them to good use. And while many want to point to the idea that rookies are different in each and every way, and young players grow at different rates and some may bloom later than others, which is true, I think it has a lot to do with coaching and the importance of that to the young player. Now, in the case of Julius Randle, he was one of my favorite players growing up. Coming out of high school, in the class of kids that made a name for themselves off those hoop mixtape, Ball is Life highlight videos with guys such as Andrew Wiggins, Jabari Parker, Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, as well as many others. This helped him, as well as a strong season at Kentucky, become the 7th pick in the 2014 NBA draft. His career got off to a rough start, basically missing his rookie year with the Lakers, and then coming back, and while he played well, I think there was more expected out of him. One of his major flaws coming out of high school was the lack of range and also the inability to drive with his offhand. Now, since then, this lack of ability to drive with his offhand has certainly gone away, but the lack of range stayed for quite some time, and while he had all the offensive tools, he didn't exactly put it together in the way that I had hoped for. A lot of people consider Julius Randle a black hole on offense, an empty stats guy. I don't believe stats are empty, just because I think, if you're still volume scoring, you're still somewhat of a scorer, and I just don't think any statistical category can be considered as empty, per se. And I really want to look at Julius Randle's maturation from this year or last year to this year, and basically what his whole career has been like. So after Julius Randle got traded to the Pelicans, he basically became a very high-scoring player, but in the end, he would be harmful to the team's success with his lack of defense and often irrational decision-making, which led to clumsy isolation baskets or turnovers per se, and just a lack of discipline and focus on both sides of the ball. However, this year, this has really taken a whole new change. Julius Randle is playing with much more discipline and focus, and his decision-making has improved a ton, which can be evident by the fact that his assists have nearly doubled, while his turnovers for the most part have remained the same. Playmaking, I think, is probably Julius Randle's biggest development, and I think he's always had the tools. His assist numbers haven't always been great, but you could see the playmaking ability was there, from a rookie all the way up till now. However, it was the lack of critical decision-making skills that hindered Julius Randle's ability to truly evolve into what he is today. Often he would drive and then kick into a cluster of defenders, which can often lead to turnovers in the passing lanes as defenders haunt the opposing guards, which is a lot of what we saw last year. Obviously, he earned a reputation as a spin move heavy guy that would often find himself in trouble and then irrationally kick out or make a poor decision in the post or just lose the ball altogether. This year, Julius Randle is playing as the lead playmaker, which is interesting, and it's worked wonders for his game. And I think a lot of that has to be credited towards Tom Thibodeau, who seemingly brings the first structured offense that Randle has played with. Now, while those young Laker teams were very exciting and had numerous talent, they weren't exactly coached to their full potential, which is why so many of the players that have left that system have gone on to have pretty good careers, namely D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, and Brandon Ingram. Now, this is not just to shade the Lakers for their lack of development, it's more so just the fact that the coaches were not exactly doing a great job in bringing structure to the offense, and that hindered each of these young players' ability to truly maximize their talents. Even in New Orleans, Alvin Gentry was a good coach, but at the end of the day, he really did not have that much of a structured offense either. He was often carried by the talents of Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis, and obviously having Julius Randle as a guy that can give you 21 was great for the team as well. With Tom Thibodeau there, he's really maximized Julius Randle's ability to create for himself and others. And this is where we can kind of get into where Julius has improved. I believe his ball handling has taken somewhat of an upswing from years past. It's a lot more tighter, less sloppy, and it just looks more clean and smooth per se than years past, where it often looked clumsy. He didn't always look totally locked in on the court, and etc. And basically, with this newfound structure, Julius Randle has taken responsibility. And obviously, another part of his growth has been his shooting. Now, Julius Randle's been a pretty decent mid-range shooter for the last couple years now, but the three-point shooting was never there. Before this season, he peaked at 34% on 3 attempts a game with his final season with the Pelicans, which has since gone up tremendously. He's now shooting 41% on nearly 5 attempts a game, which is tremendous. And that, I think, that along with his newfound ball handling, has been his two biggest improvements per se. But the skills were always there. It's just a matter of refinement. And being able to improve yourself as a ball handler has helped him open up his own offense and create for himself. Often we saw him take contested shots or off-balance shots due to the lack of a tight dribble, and this really hindered his ability to make these shots, but now creating separation for himself within the offense and allowing himself to basically make these opportunities a lot more easier than in years past. We are finally seeing the tools of Julius Randle that were so hyped up coming out of high school, college, and barely seen his first couple years in the NBA finally be put to good use. Now, the importance of structure is one thing, and I still don't think this Knicks roster is perfect with the lack of spacing, but that just shows that, even with better spacing, Julius Randle can be even better because now he's really grasped the tools. And grasping the tools is where I want to talk about his overall maturation as a player. If you guys haven't read recently, I would highly recommend you check out Julius Randle's interview in the Players Tribune. He talks about how adjusting to the New York system and lifestyle was very tough for him, but he didn't let that bring him down. He learned from all the criticism. He made sure to note of all of it. The black hole mentality of him on offense, him being a quote-unquote empty stats guy. And he really used that to push himself further in this offseason. And now the results are being shown in marvelous fashion. Julius Randle is truly someone who I believe the Knicks can and will build around going forward. Whether that's him as the secondary creator or secondary star, or whether that's him as primary, I do think that Julius Randle's talents can be showcased even further with a team that has a better roster construction on it. For now, the Knicks are sitting in the playoffs and Julius Randle is an All-Star. And I do think that he will be a mainstay in the All-Star team for a couple years now if he maintains this level of maturity and concentration to maintaining his high level of play and perhaps even getting better with the skills that he already has. If he can continue to be a playmaker at this rate and lower his turnovers along the line, which I think will be the case with better spacing, it will really open up the conversation as Julius Randle being a superstar potentially. I do think he still has to improve on the defensive end, given that he doesn't have a ton of length on that end, but still, he is a really good player. And this year, for the first time in a while, it seems like he's been somewhat a little bit above average, generating a secondary high of defensive win shares, a career high in defensive BPM. And while these aren't, the best stats to say someone is a great defender, it's good to see these trending in a positive direction. So that's all I have for Julius Randle today. If you guys like the content, be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment on what you think. Can Julius Randle be the primary star of New York going forward? Is he peaking right now? Is he someone you think the Knicks should build around? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for tuning in. As always, good night.